How are you?
Good. How you doing?
It's nice to see you.
Thank you. You too.
I'm happy you're here.
I like this spot.
Bronson Center?
Oh, this is beautiful. I've never been in this theater.
It's nice here. Hey, yeah, I like it too. I like it too. You and I should come back.
Okay.
We'll do another show here.
I hope.
Yeah, a little duet.
I saw you guys all lined up out front. Mm-hmm. Glad you got in. It's cold out.
They're all here for you, Buffy. They're all here for you.
You're sweet.
Listen, I have to tell you, it's such an honor to speak to you. I've been a fan of your music for such a long time.
Thank you.
I mean, you're already one of the most decorated musicians in the history of this country. You've won a Golden Globe. You won the Polaris Music Prize. You won an Oscar. You've received the Order of Canada. So I'm wondering, after all those decorations, what an award like this one, a humanitarian award, the Alan Waters Humanitarian Award, what that means to you.
I think it's really nice that the music industry even thinks about things like the things that musicians do aside from their lights, camera, action recordings, you know?
Yeah.
Last year, Arcade Fire was honored, and I was pretty impressed with what they've done in the world. And you know, they'd be a very hard act to follow, but I'm very grateful that anybody has taken the time to notice the things that have been meaningful to me aside from music and within music, because very often musicians are either censored or not recognized for the things that we do unless they're, you know, front page
scandals,
music things. Scandal too.
Yeah. But I'm just interested to know, though, because I think for someone who someone who comes up making music, I'm always wondering whether it's a conscious choice to make music that has a message of social justice, that has a message of change, or whether that's a conscious choice, or whether that's just something you come up with.
Oh, it's a little bit of both, I think. I mean, there's absolutely no money or fame in writing songs that, you know, songs of meaning or protest or any of that. And in order to just stay in the record business, because, you know, show business is very expensive. I mean, if I didn't have hits with love songs, I wouldn't be here with you today. So in a way, my love songs have supported the songs that do deal with change. But, you know, I should say that as a musician, I travel around the world, and I have the advantage of airplane tickets.
Yeah.
And therefore, I get to go to places that are outside of my own neighborhood and really outside of show business. And that gives an artist a different kind of perspective. And when you see how things are in the world, the wonderful things and the tragic things, and sometimes it just occurs to you the same way that it would a love song. A song pops into your head and you start writing it down. So I don't think any of us know where they come from or why.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that you've spoken a lot about the idea of being, well, not the idea, the reality of being blacklisted from the radio. And that is something that happened to you in the 1960s and 70s, and you were writing this incredibly powerful music, and you were struggling to get your music heard. And then you say you could have written love songs, you could have written pop songs your entire life, but you didn't. Once you wrote, you know, Love, Lift Us Up Where We Belong, and you wrote Until It's Time for You to Go, and Elvis records that, and Barbra Streisand records that. It's not like you make a shift there and say, okay, Buffy Sainte-Marie is only going to write love songs from now on because that's where the dough is and I can't get heard any other way. Even though, not unlike Pete Seeger, even though you couldn't be heard in traditional mediums, you kept on writing those songs. Why?
I don't know, just from the time that I was a kid, I've always written all different kinds of songs. So at the same time that I was writing Universal Soldier, I was also writing Until It's Time for You to Go.
Right.
So for me, you know, I'll write a protest song in the same day as a love song. It just does, I don't know where they come from or why that happens, but, you know, I don't think anybody is just one way. I think all of us have feelings about the world and feelings about each other. There are deep love songs that are very important to me, just as important as a protest song.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know why it happens. I don't know if there's any logic to it.
But maybe more importantly, what kept you going? I mean, most artists, when they find out there are very powerful people in the government, in the United States government in this case, trying to keep your music off of the radio, most people would maybe stop for a while, or they'd end up playing summer camps for the rest of their lives. That's true. I mean, that's what happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, it kind of happened to me, too. I mean, in the U.S., people don't know that I'm still recording. They have no idea. Power in the Blood was a big deal in Canada, but most people in the U.S. don't know who I am.
Yeah.
They think that either that I retired or died or something after Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon's administrations had their way with my career. And, I've never had any... I've never had a feeling of, oh, you hurt my career. It wasn't about that. What really bothered me when I found out maybe 20, 30 years after, they don't tell you when you're being censored or blacklisted. They don't tell you. I had to find out the hard way. And I had no idea. I just thought people in the U.S., times change and music change. And I thought,
you weren't getting hurt just because.
Yeah, so I continued to record love songs and protest songs. And you couldn't get anything played. Because, in show business, folks, it's kind of like if they hold you underwater for 4 minutes, you're dead for a long time. And the same thing is true in the music industry. If you're gagged in a country for 2 back-to-back administrations, that's 8 years that nobody hears from you. So, I just plain don't have a career in the U.S. and probably never will have. However, what I did, instead of stop writing, I kept on writing, but I went to Sesame Street for 5.5 years.
Sure did, yeah.
So. And it was really the same thing. It really was the same thing, except that instead of trying to sing only to people my own age and my own peers and grown-ups, I was reaching little kids and their caregivers 3 times a day in 72 countries of the world with the same message. Indians exist, we have friends, we have families, we're real, we're still here, so,
The first time I ever saw you was with Pete Seeger when you played on the Rainbow Quest and you played the Mouthbow and you played Cripple Creek.
I still play the Mouthbow. As a matter of fact, the Polaris Prize, after Tanya Tagaq won and then I won the next year, Polaris Prize continued to support us. They put us together, which we very much wanted to do, and we recorded a song that you can find on YouTube now. It's called You Got to Run, You Got to Run. You got to run for election, you got to run for your life, you got to run a marathon, and I played Mouthbow on that.
So what was it like working with Tanya?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah?
It was kind of a dream come true for both of us because we're kind of mutual fans and have been for a real long time.
I should point out that song is about the legendary sled dog racer, George Atla.
Well, it comes from a movie that was about George Atla. Yeah, he was an Alaskan sled dog racer.
So what is it about him that inspired you to write the song?
Well, in the 70s, the director asked me would I score the movie, and I said yes. But nobody ever saw it. It was a big hit in Alaska. But that was in the 70s. However, the song was great, and the Polaris, Steve Jordan of the Polaris Prize, God bless him, he said, who would you like to record with? And I said, Tanya. And he said, and who would you like to produce it? And I said, John Levine, the great John Levine from Toronto. Unfortunately, John Levine spends most of his time, unfortunately, he didn't like it much, but he lives in L.A. and he cuts hits for all kinds of people. So we brought John all the way from L.A. to Toronto, and he was glad to be back in Canada. And we made this great little song called You Got to Run, which is kind of comes from that movie, but it's a real update.
But it's a beautiful song. I think what I've been thinking about this whole time has been the idea of persistence. I mean, you're 76 now. You have your farm in Hawaii.
Yeah.
You have your goats.
Yeah.
Meh.
Yeah.
No one would. Was that okay? Was that a good goat?
I've got a lot of good goats.
Was my goat impression okay?
One more time? Almost. Good.
Got it. So. What I can't get over is that a lot of people at this stage in your career would be happy to sit back, sip a margarita with said goat. But you don't. You're still touring. You're still playing music. I remember I ran into you at the Polaris Prize. I said, how are you doing, Buffy? You said, well, I'm pretty good for someone who spent last night lying down on an airport floor.
That's right. I did have to.
What keeps you going?
I don't know, just being an artist from the time that I was real little. I mean, I am an artist. I didn't go to music school or something to learn how to be I was just born that way, and it's fun. The music itself is fun, and to, have a song come into your head that has never existed before is kind of a miracle, and then to be able to give it to other people and other musicians, I can't think of anything better. Except maybe being at home in Hawaii on a farm with a bunch of goats. So what I do is I have kind of 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, but consequently I spend a lot of time in airports.
Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, you have this song with Tanya Tagaq, which is doing so well. Later on in the show, we're going to have Narcy, who directed the Tribe Called Red video. It's being written that there's never been a better time for indigenous art, indigenous music in this country. I want to know, as someone who's, let's say, been around a while, how do you feel about all that?
Well, I'm kind of thrilled. I wish it was even bigger than it is, but I'm looking forward to more and more musicians across Canada, whether they're Indigenous or not, to continue to expand Canadian music. And for gosh sakes, learn more than those same 3 chords that you learned the first month you were playing. There's hundreds more. So it's really all about the music.
Really
but the music comes from everywhere in Canada, and thank God for all the people who are involved in it. People in media and audiences and artists for supporting live music and recorded music, and more power to them all.
Buffy, I don't know if I'll have an opportunity like this again for a lot of different reasons. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity like this just to say, like, I've been a big fan of your music, and I know people back where I'm from in Newfoundland and Labrador have certainly felt the impact of the power of your music. And I think I can speak on behalf of everyone at the Bronson Center when I say thank you very much.
Oh, thank you too.